this game just got a hell of a lot more interesting with the Packers losing that game to the Vikings, because you talk about who's going to get that home field advantage, who's going to get the easy road to the playoffs. And the fact that the Packers are now struggling to keep Lambeau, and the fact that this game is a legitimate pick'em, even according to Vegas, I think tells you that these teams are evenly matched. And there was a couple of things when I go back to that immovable object versus unstoppable force. So McVay, after a bye week, 3-1, he is 16-7 after a loss, and has lost 3 straight games only once in his career. That was the 2019 season, the one season in his tenure that the Rams actually missed the playoffs. Matt LaFleur, on the other hand, has never lost back-to-back games in his time with the Packers. Matt LaFleur, obviously we'll figure out one day if it was all Rodgers or if it was a little bit of him. But so far since he got into Green Bay, that has been something that has been a huge positive, that this team responds well after losses. This is going to be a big statement game for Matthew Stafford, because when you look at the last 2 games he had prior to the bye week, against Tennessee in primetime, against the Niners in primetime, 2 interceptions in both games that put him behind the 8 ball pretty early on there. Can he respond going against a team he's very familiar with? Matthew Stafford versus the Packers. Actually, Matthew Stafford, if you look at his head-to-head, and the last time I saw the stat, it was like 2020. I think he had a 7-7 career record versus the Packers, which sounds shocking because we always think about the Lions just getting their ass kicked by the Packers. But it seems like Matthew Stafford kept him in a lot more games than we really gave him credit for. Can he do that with a new team going into this game, going into a cold weather environment in Lambeau? I wonder, one thing that I think is going to be big for them, they need to establish the run early. A.J. Dillon only got 11 carries against the Vikings, and that put them in a spot in which they weren't able to use their offense to the fullest capabilities. Talk about Aaron Rodgers having a great day, but Aaron Rodgers, I think ideally, is not throwing as much as he necessarily had to in that game to keep pace with the Vikings. I think if you set up some easy play actions, you make the game plan short and compact, kind of like that game manager stuff that we talked Aaron Rodgers has shifted to in recent years. That's a good pathway for victory for them. And it worked for them. It worked for the Niners against the Rams. Can Matt LaFleur and the Packers basically take the Niners game plan, except use it with Devontae Adams, A.J. Dillon, and Aaron Rodgers? Because if they could do that, I think the Packers are winning this game.
This is a tough question, isn't it? Who's going to win this one? Because both teams feel like they're in a very even place right now. I think this is one where we rely on the old coin flip game to decide, because I believe the Rams are 1-point favorites, I think, going into this game.
According to ESPN right now, it's even.
It's even.
If you told me the Packers got a 1-point edge of being at home by the end of the week, I would believe it. It's dead even right now.
All right, let's see what this has to say. Heads is going to be Rams. Tails is going to be Packers. Looks like tails. I guess that means I have the Green Bay Packers this week.
Wow, we are literally in agreement on all 5 games. I don't think that's ever happened in the history of us recording together.
That's unfortunate for you.
Here? Yeah, I was going to say it definitely does hurt me, but okay, well, we're both going to the Packers. What do you have to say about them going into this game against the Rams?
Similarly to what we talked about with the Vikings game, like the Packers played very well last week in executing the game plan. You're right that they didn't use A.J. Dillon as much. And obviously they were still in the game because of that huge Marquez Valdez-Scantling touchdown at the very end, which I just started laughing when I saw that. It was like, of course, Rodgers, one play, 75 yards can erase all your work, because that's just how Aaron Rodgers works sometimes. But Green Bay's defense played really poorly against the Minnesota Vikings, which in part I think that's in part like just a great job by Kirk Cousins, because we know the Packers secondary is really, really good. They blanked the Seattle Seahawks the week before that. They held the Cardinals to like 17 points in that game. Like they've been really, really good. I'd say the best in football this year, the best secondary in the NFL in Green Bay. They're not great at stopping the run. They're better this year at stopping the run than they've been in the last 2 years, which is just god awful at stopping the run, but they're better this year. And the Rams are in an interesting place because the Los Angeles Rams are really trying to do the anti-Sean McVay thing. I think we talked about this a little while ago, which is that because of personnel, the Rams have not held the ball as long this year. The Rams are actually one of 4 teams above 500 in the NFL that is not winning in time of possession this season. The Rams actually hold the ball less than their opponents this year, Again, only 4 teams above 500 are in the bottom 16 in time of possession this year. So they've kind of been the antithesis of what Sean McVay, we've come to like expect Sean McVay as, which is like zone running schemes, holding the ball, doing all that stuff. And I think that's just part because they have Odell Beckham, Cooper Kupp, and what was at the time Robert Woods. And their running game this year is a lot of Darrell Henderson and just hoping that their offensive line can stay healthy for the most part. And so they've kind of been the antithesis of themselves. And I think that's not going to play well into this matchup against the Green Bay Packers. Of course, we know that Sean McVay has also never lost when having the lead at halftime. So that changes the math around that as well, is that the Rams are very good at closing games. But if you were to pick any game in Sean McVay's career where you have a halftime lead and you end up losing, it would be against the person who in his entire 13-year career with the Green Bay Packers has only lost twice when having a halftime lead at Lambeau Field, which makes the stat even funnier, is that the 2 times that happened was versus Carson Wentz and versus Josh Rosen are the only times that Aaron Rodgers has lost after having a halftime lead at Lambeau.
Was that the last Mike McCarthy year?
That was actually the game that got Mike McCarthy fired, was after losing to Josh Rosen at home. McCarthy, you're gone.
See, that's understandable. If there was any more understandable firing than losing to Josh Rosen, hell, I think even a Belichick, let's just say the Falcons play the Patriots next year, Josh Rosen has to start somehow. Well, I guess it's time I retire. I just lost the game to Josh Rosen. It's been a great 25 years, but guess I'll just walk in the distance.
It's the same rule as losing to Kansas, or in the case of Florida, losing to Missouri, or also in the case of Florida, getting shit talked by Missouri, is that when you're getting shit talked by Missouri and when you're losing to Kansas, someone's got to get fired. Doesn't matter who it is, someone's getting fired.
See, I was actually shocked in 2018 when the Niners went 0-2 against Josh Rosen, that wasn't Kyle Shanahan's last year, just in principle there.
I think those were the only wins they had.
At the time, we did not know how bad Josh Rosen's career would go. One day, people will write novels about how bad Josh Rosen's career in the NFL went, from going to there was 9 mistakes in front of me to being out of the league. And I give it another year or so, because I'm surprised he even got with the Falcons.
Also, reminder that the Cardinals traded up in that draft to get Josh Rosen, a pick that they traded that became Colton Miller, the all-pro, or I guess Pro Bowl tackle for the Las Vegas Raiders, and at a time where Lamar Jackson was still on the board.
So, yeah, this is probably the most in-depth Josh Rosen takes that you'll hear on a podcast. So subscribe for more, guys. If you want to know all about Josh Rosen, UCLA legend that got Jim Mora fired, that got himself shipped out of Arizona right away.
I will never forget the magical Motel 6 Cactus Bowl against Kansas State that Josh Rosen played in. And everyone's like, yeah, this guy's a 1st-round pick. Definitely. We could shit talk UCLA football too. I'm happy to do that.
Let's finish this game analysis real quick, and then we'll revisit this here just on the swing out here. I will say both these teams, you mentioned Sean McVay's stat leading at halftime. You mentioned Aaron Rodgers' stat leading at halftime. You would say that there's a very front runner mentality to both these guys in the sense that they need to establish a lead. If you look at what cost the Packers against the Vikings, they had a very, very slow start. The Vikings got off to an early lead, like I said, and neutralized A.J. Dillon because they weren't able to establish the run game. So if the Packers could just start off with a lead, that will instantly put them in a position to win this game. Hell, you talk about a coin toss. It might come down to a coin toss. Who gets the ball first? Who could get that lead? Who can establish momentum, control time and possession? If the Rams could be a little bit better with it after the bye week. I will talk about chemistry here too before we end this, because obviously Odell Beckham, when he went out there against the San Francisco 49ers, it was his first game. Matthew Stafford misses him on a deep pass that turns into an interception by Jimmy Ward. You can't blame the second interception on Matthew Stafford. That was off Tyler Higbee's hands. But there was also another miscommunication between Odell and Matthew Stafford in that game. Did they correct that over a bye week? Because I would say that was one of the most well-timed bye weeks. If you have a new guy coming into your locker room, you just lost a key part of your offense of Robert Woods, and you need to adjust. I will be intrigued to see how much that connection got built over the bye, or if it got built at all during the bye, because I think that Robert Woods injury
may
have been a bigger loss than we initially gave it credit for.
Yeah, it changes the way that the Rams run their offense, because I had said originally, as the spewing hot take was that everyone like thought Odell Beckham would be used like Deshaun Jackson. I'm like, Odell Beckham's not going to be a deep threat receiver. Their deep threat receiver is Cooper Kupp. And I know Cooper Kupp is like the yards after catch guy, but he's just so good that at this point, he does everything that you ask of him, like someone who would be a top 10 receiver should. So now without Robert Woods, it changes the way they run the offense. I don't know exactly how they plan to use Odell Beckham. They didn't use him at all against the 49ers, which was interesting in and of itself. The other thing I'm very interested in for this game, Jalen Ramsey got cooked by Devontae Adams in the playoffs last year. So that's going to be a fun matchup when they see each other again, with that top 2 wide receiver versus the best corner in the NFL is always fun.
Oh yeah, you talk about that stars and what do you call it? Stars and scrubs mentality that the Rams are implementing. You need Jalen Ramsey to play like a star in this game. You need Aaron Donald to play like a star in this game, because the rest of that defense around them is truly playing like scrubs, or at least they did the last 2 weeks against both Tennessee and the San Francisco 49ers. So Jalen Ramsey needs to be shadow covering Devontae Adams. Let the other guys beat you. Let Allen Lazard beat you. Let MVS beat you. Let Randall Cobb beat you. But don't let Devontae Adams beat you. That's the Rams strategy to winning this game.